mentored with Jay Abraham for 3 years. I consider him the marketing god of the universe. And he's really the guy who taught me about joint ventures. So when I started my own business back in 1995, I mentored with Jay 96, 97, 98, and then he and I continued to do a little work together through the early 2000s. And over that time frame, I began to really build out my own joint ventures. In fact, it became the crux of my entire business. Now, as I've noted in the introductory webinar that you guys may have seen, the freebie that I put up, joint venturing is really just old-fashioned partnering with a twist. It's a step above bartering, really, but it is the ultimate tactical tool. I mean, it allows you without a dime in your bank to take full ethical advantage of other people's resources, their capital investments, their facilities investments, their personnel investments, all kinds of things. The key is that it's so easy, it's so amazing that more people don't do it. But because more people don't do it, it gives you the bigger opportunity. Now, the easiest way to start joint ventures, I always tell people, is to start with the land in which you are familiar. In other words, look down under your feet and look at all of the many assets that you have in your own world that you are not utilizing properly or to their fullest leveraged extent, right? So if you're just a solopreneur who has like one book, I don't care if it's a fiction book or a nonfiction book, you can use these concepts to build multiple streams of income, what we call MSIs, for yourself. I mean, look at what you already have going on in your own business, in your own skills, in your own knowledge set, and then begin to make a list of all of the people that you know. Your own Rolodex is absolutely golden. And so what you want to do, I often refer to this, is instead of having a diving board business with one way of doing business, you're building a Parthenon of multiple columns. And whether some columns are short or tall, or whether they last the ages or not, is not the thing. The thing is that you've got a Parthenon. And if this isn't doing that much, this over here is. And that's how you continue to build income and leverage that income as you go. So as I was putting together my Joint Venture Genius course, in the first module, I started talking about how I actually put MSIs together, my own multiple streams of income, right? So to give you an idea of how joint ventures can expand, I'm going to show you this very quick slideshow of how I started with my one little business, okay? So back in 1995, thanks primarily to Bob Proctor, who personally encouraged me and pushed me along, I started my own freelance writing company. I called it Right Brain because when Bob and I had that game-changing conversation in the hallway in a Las Vegas convention center, he told me that I was so right-brained there was hardly any left in me. So I did a play on words and I called my company Right Brain, W-R-I-T-E, Brain. Now, eventually, that name had to change, though, because my clients all needed something beyond my writing skills. So let me see if I can bring this up for you here. Okay, so that expanded into, initially doing a joint venture with a great designer, Patty Knowles, who was also somebody that I met through Bob. And she and I are still working together 28 years later. In fact, she just sent me an email right before I got into this call. So everything began to expand very quickly from there. Graphic design began to require a lot of original photography. So I got photographers involved and eventually videographers. On the done side of the graphic design, I spun up printing and fulfillment relationships. Okay. Then the internet hit and I began to hire website designers, the first of their kind, really, because we're talking back in 97, 98. Now, website design included all of the above, right? But we also began to develop e-commerce, e-learning platforms. And then, of course, we began doing SEO and SEM organic work, as well as later, much later in the game, social media, and then later in the game still, apps, right? So while all of this is popping along, I moved to my dream town, Laguna Beach, also promulgated by Bob Proctor. Well, it was my goal, but he's the one who pushed me. And all I'm doing is working. I'm in this beautiful, idyllic beach coastal town, and all I'm doing is working. I'm not even getting out and exploring my town. So I decided to start a hobby. I'm going to start writing blogs about the best of Laguna Beach, right? It's just a hobby, right? Okay, so I start Best of Laguna Beach, and I figure, well, the least I can do is negotiate syndicated columns and reprint usage for travel magazines, that sort of thing. I mean, they all need content, right? But then I get on a content repurposing spin. I start doing vlogs, videos of my blogs, and I start guest hosting on the local radio shows. Same content, different joint ventures. This is leverage. Now, from all this content, I've collected a lot of data. So I published 2 books that start selling internationally, a sort of Lonely Planet Traveler's Guide to Laguna Beach, because I've got the graphic designer, I've got the printing and the fulfillment channels already in place, right? And an online restaurant directory comes along then, still repurposing all of the blog content, the original source. Now, at this point, the city of Laguna Beach negotiates with me to connect to my restaurant directory and send it to their 50,000 or so email subscribers. Sweet. So then I have this idea. I shifted my entire marketing company to hospitality in 2003. And here I am doing all of this writing about Laguna Beach's restaurants primarily. So why not start Global Culinary Group, a restaurant consulting group? So I arrange JVs with a variety of consultants who are very good at their jobs in and around specificities of resort restaurant management, build outs, renovations, traffic within the restaurant, where to put the restrooms, where to put the service stations, all that kind of thing, all the way down to menu design and menu actual design, graphic design, the whole thing. So I've arranged everything with all these consultants, and I bring on a great hospitality architect firm. And of course, more hospitality marketing opportunities come from this because this channel was already in place. So all these chefs and restaurateurs are asking for real estate advice too. I mean, they're asking me in Laguna Beach specifically, where's the best place to put a restaurant? Is this a good spot? Should we do this? Should we take over this failing restaurant and be here? What do you think? Right? So from that, I organized Armitage Real Estate Group. Now, after working for years in the real estate industry as a marketing and strategy consultant, I finally get my real estate license. So I have absolutely no intention of being a full-time realtor. Let me make sure I got this one up here. There we go. But I do have leads coming in from Best of Laguna Beach and my relocating chefs and on and on and on. And then that has expanded to simply sending referrals to other agents and commercial bird dogging for my clients. That is then passed to commercial entities who have also joint ventured with me. Now, the real estate side was all put in place around, 2018-ish, 2019-ish. And Bob and I began to have more and more conversations about me stepping into mentoring and coaching. He said it was time I came out from behind the curtain and started teaching everything I'd been learning from him and from Science of Mind over all the years. So I began to tiptoe into that space by end of 2019. And during our COVID shutdown, that idea became a thing, DianeArmitage.com. And I started teaching live classes with all new content every single week. Now, because I'm a writer, a curriculum writer, a book writer, a marketing writer, I'm creating new content every single week, a lot of new teaching content. This gives us significant advantages right out of the gate for both MSIs and joint venturing opportunities, because I really don't believe anyone in the world is creating this volume and quality of content in this space. So where's the best leverage here for new joint ventures? Well, I'm repurposing this brand new content into brand new multiple channels. I've begun to license my live courses, and we're creating online on-demand courses, one of which is the Joint Venture Genius class. And we're negotiating joint ventures for their sale through multiple channels. I'm speaking on other people's stages. I'm speaking on other people's podcasts. And we're beginning the process of licensing the various sections of or topics to other coaches. Now, meanwhile, and I think this is largely because of COVID, I've had a resurgence of authors wanting to work with me and my company for editing, final polishing, content writing of their books. So that demand has created a new series of joint venture agreements. Now, why do I show you all of this? Because this is you. If you have a business or even a product or a service or even an idea, you can apply all of these elements. All of these elements: sales, distribution, access to markets, prospects, salespeople, publications, even just visibility by figuring out how to create joint venture situations. And if you don't have a business, you can go to any business out there and you still have access to their markets, to their prospects, to what Jay Abraham calls prodigal clients, to advertising and media buys, to distribution channels. Any of these you've never had before, you can put them in place for yourself right now. You don't have to go out and buy their stuff. You're getting all of this access and you're able to negotiate the deal. So the first and real question you really want to ask yourself: what do you have already? What assets do you have that are underutilized? And or where are you seeing the same in someone else's business? This is how a joint venture begins. This is how a joint venture begins. You saw the map. I started with a little freelance writing company sitting in my living room at a cardboard table. And this is what has happened in my world since then. And I don't have a single employee. These are all joint ventures. Okay? Okay, now I know that was a quick introduction to joint venture genius. And in the course itself, I go into everything. I go into the scripts and dialogues. I go into getting past the gatekeepers. I go into actually solidifying who you want to go after first and why you want to go after first, and how you put all of that information together before you approach them, what you do in the process, how you contact them in the process. What's the first thing you do? What's the second thing you do? What's the third thing you do? All of that is in this big course, Joint Venture Genius.